Hey guys, welcome to the studio. In the first episode of Guitar Fundamentals, we went over how I like to teach and practice triads over the whole register of the instrument. The response I got to that video was absolutely incredible. It really made me happy to see how helpful that stuff was to people. I can't thank you all enough for your wonderful comments. Since then, our little community has grown quite a bit bigger, and I figured I'd continue the series with a fittingly large topic. On this episode of Guitar Fundamentals, we're going to start our journey towards mastery of the diatonic arpeggios in the major scale. That seems like a huge topic, and, well, it is. As a result, this exploration of arpeggios will likely become its own multi-part series within a series. How many parts will it end up being? Who knows? There's a ton of stuff to cover and near limitless ways to practice this kind of stuff. You guys can help steer the discussion on this one by letting me know down in the comments if there are other aspects of this topic that you'd like to see covered in future parts. Today, in part 1, we'll tackle the diatonic arpeggios in a really similar manner to how we went over the triads. I'll split them up by string group and then show you how I like to link them through the entire register. We'll be going over all this stuff in the key of C major, but come on, you knew this was coming. You should always practice these things in all 12 keys. You guys ready? Let's get into it. I find organizing things by string group to be extremely logical and helpful, not only for teaching my students, but also for organizing my own practice. If we look at this topic from a bird's eye perspective, it can seem super daunting. However, if we break it down into smaller chunks of the instrument, then things start to become quite a bit more manageable. Let's start out today's work by checking out how to practice diatonic arpeggios on a group of 3 strings. We'll start on the top 3, G, B, and E, and then work our way down. Here, have a look at the first one. Because we have so much more to cover, I'm only showing you guys the root position form of each string group. We can and should do the same process with the remaining 3 inversions for each chord as well. Is that a ton of work? Yeah. Is it super fulfilling, and will it ultimately lead to mastery? Certainly. Well, let's check out the other 3 string groups now. Now that you got a handle on the different string groups, I'd like to show you guys how I prefer to practice these things. Instead of going all one direction and then the other, which, mind you, is a great practice that I still do regularly, I like to take these shapes and crisscross my way through the key. Let's take a look at how this would work, still organizing our practice by string group. All the shapes are going to be the same as the last segment, but some of the fingerings here might be different so that I can connect all the notes in a more musical way. Here, take a look at what I mean. This type of practice is fantastic for working laterally up the fingerboard, but of course, we shouldn't really only be able to play across the neck. In fact, it's actually quite the opposite. Most of the time when we're improvising, it's super important to be able to react to the changing harmony and find continuations in our lines without moving too far, either melodically or physically, from wherever we might find ourselves at any given moment. Next up, I'm going to show you guys how to practice the same exercise, but in a single position. Now that we spent some time with the arpeggios on the different string groups, we should have a fairly good grasp on the different shapes for each chord quality inside of one octave. To do this in one position, we now need to come up with an economical fingering so that we can move up the strings without too much trouble. Here's how I like to do this. Once you get comfortable doing that, you should also practice doing this from high to low in the same position, like this. If you've been watching my videos for any length of time at all now, you've probably picked up on some little gems or aphorisms that I like to use just constantly. The main one, of course, is you should always practice in 12 keys. The other is to practice the full range of the guitar. In the previous segments, we did that by moving our way up the register, but in small chunks. Well, now we're going to expand these arpeggio shapes into 3 octaves and play all the way through every chord, as far as we possibly can. Keep a careful watch on the fingering here. Kind of like the classical Segovia scale patterns, the fingerings change for when we play these ascending versus descending. Here, check out what I mean by that. These shapes can actually be kind of a pain to get working, so make sure you go through them really slowly at first. And I do mean really slow. Treat this kind of practice like a sort of guitar yoga, where each move has to be completely controlled and relaxed. Don't be concerned with tempo or how quickly you can play this stuff in any kind of time frame. Remember, we're shooting for mastery, and that, my friends, takes time and lots of patience. Something else to consider is to try and play all this stuff with a left hand that's so light that each note will actually buzz on purpose. This is harder than it sounds, especially if you've been playing for quite a while and your guitar has a pretty low action. I bet you don't realize how much pressure you actually use in your left hand. Give this a try and see how much concentration and effort it takes to maintain that buzz. It might not be the most pleasant thing to hear, but it really tells us that we're barely pressing on the string, and that's really the key to any kind of speed and fluidity here. Let's check out one more way that we can practice these arpeggios for today. Just like we did with the other method of playing through the arpeggios, we can practice crisscrossing our way through the key, even with these gigantic 3-octave shapes. This is actually a super fun exercise to play, and if you can get it cooking, it sounds really awesome, even if you're just playing it as an exercise. I'll take you through the whole key, starting at the 1 chord, in this case that's C, and then loop my way back around. Here, take a look. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I think that's my technique practice for the day covered. Man, what a workout. Keep in mind, as far as fingering goes, the strategies that I've demonstrated here are certainly not the only way. It's just the way that I find to be most efficient and comfortable to play. As far as the right hand, you'll have probably noticed that I like to use a lot of sweep or economy picking. Again, this isn't the only way to do this stuff. It's just the way that I find to be most efficient and comfortable for me. Something that my old teacher Larry Kuntz used to say is that if you spend too much time concerned with practicing every possible fingering option and every other configuration, every right hand thing, you're never going to make any damn music. Try to keep that in mind whenever you practice things like this. This kind of stuff is really just about preparedness and access to the harmony. You ideally shouldn't be thinking about any of this stuff when it's time to actually improvise and play. I also can't stress the importance of slow practice enough in these exercises. Practice this stuff slower than you've ever practiced anything in your life. If you can really learn to treat this with a meditative type of focus, you're going to be that much closer to the level of mastery that you're searching for. What did you guys think of this technique study? How do you normally like to practice your arpeggios? Leave a comment down below and let me know about it. We're building quite the little community here after all, and nothing makes me happier than to hear how all of you are getting on with your practice. A special thanks goes out to my wonderful patrons, PH, Trent Taylor, and a new addition, Cedric. Thank you very much for your support. An extra special thank you this week goes out to Vibav Bobadi for becoming a patron at the Jazz Luminaire tier, and for the wonderful suggestion for this week's video topic. Thank you very much. In case you're wondering, Jazz Luminaire tier patrons have access to all the same benefits as intermediate patrons do, but they also get to book a private Zoom lesson with yours truly once a month. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, you should really go check out my Patreon page. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm just completely floored by the support that I've been receiving from all you guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.